Game week 32 is here, and this is going to be the most popular week to play a wildcard. So let's see how a draft will look like. But before we get started, you guys should know the drill by now. Make sure you guys leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts if you are actually going to play a wildcard. Because listen, I've seen all the debates in the FPL community. Is free hit 33, wildcard 35 the better strategy, or is this the better strategy? Well, only time will tell. And listen, I'm going to go through a Game Week 32 wildcard draft, how I think it should approximately look like, how it looks like for Game Week 33, but I'll also speak about there are a couple negatives to this strategy. And more importantly, one thing I am going to say throughout this video, it is very team dependent. It is very transfer dependent. For example, you guys can see the team or the defense right now, which I'll go through. I don't have any Arsenal defenders, which I'll discuss. But anyway, let's start with how the wildcard will look like, should I say. Starting off with Verbruggen in goal. Burnley away this week. Doubles in next week. Brighton, decent enough defense. Like, the frustrating thing is the clean sheets haven't really been there. And I own Verbruggen in my normal scheme. They concede a lot of late goals, which I know is very, very frustrating. But the defensive data is still good enough, which is why I have Verbruggen. And I'll have Darlow on the bench. Cheap keeper from Leeds. Leeds' Game Week 33 double, which we'll talk about a bit later, is actually very, very nice. So that's how the goalkeeper situation will look like. The defense, this is where I've seen a lot of debate. Whether you go with Van Hecke or you go with the Turkish guy, Kadioglu. I think that's how you pronounce his name, from Brighton. I still think Van Hecke is the best option to go with. Just because his chance of getting DEFCON is obviously a lot higher. And Van Hecke actually has a very, very good, let's say, aerial presence in the opposition box to obviously try to score a goal. So I'll still lean towards Van Hecke because I think he has a higher floor and he has a relatively, let's say, similar ceiling to Kadioglu, if that makes sense. Where you guys are going to see the cons of a Game Week 32 wildcard is I got Senesi this week. He has Arsenal away, but obviously doubles in Game Week 33. Also on the bench, in terms of defence, I have Hill, Arsenal away this week. Not the best of fixtures. And Struck from Leeds. Currently, Rodon's obviously a doubt. You might want to go with him. But even then, they're Manchester United away. So the third, let's say, option in this defence is not optimal for this week. So this is what I'm saying. If you guys have maybe a bit more transfers than, let's say, one which we're using as the baseline, maybe you want to go with Gabriel this week and then move him to a doubler next week if you want to do that. But that is obviously something you guys are going to have to think of with your own teams depending on transfers you have. And I'll speak about why transfers are very important a bit more as well. And then Nico O'Reilly against Chelsea away. The man of the moment. The position he's picking up, by the way, incredible. And I'm going to talk about the Manchester City setup again when we talk about the midfield, because it's changed over the last two games again. That's why Pep's the best manager in the world in my eyes. He's so adaptable in terms of getting the best out of these players. But the role Nico O'Reilly has is still sensational for FPL. We know his ability to crash the box, score goals. Listen, I haven't owned him at all for this season. And I feel like I've been very, very lucky to avoid these big Nico O'Reilly hauls, because they've been coming, and obviously the last couple games, he's got them. But anyway, that's how the defense will look like. Let's have a look at the midfield. And now the midfield, and again, you could argue it's not the most optimal for Game Week 32. But we're starting off with Hinchelwood from Brighton. Now, a lot of people are obviously going to pick, let's say, the third Brighton player, either being Danny Welbeck, Hinchelwood, or Pascal Gross. So why have I gone with Hinchelwood? The reason is he's playing in the number 10 role right now for Brighton. He's like average position when you're watching him. He's literally higher than Danny Welbeck at times, and he's positioning himself in great areas. He's also had a lot of shots in recent weeks. He's, I think, top 10 for non-penalty XGI from midfielders over the last 6. He's not a bad option to have, and I've seen a lot of people go with Pascal Gross. The reason why I would, let's say, lean towards Hinchelwood is, first of all, is Pascal Gross guaranteed DEFCON on a regular basis? No. Has he hit it a couple times for Brighton? Obviously. But the fact that he's not guaranteed, that kind of leads me away from Gross and goes with, let's say, the higher upside in Hinchelwood. Also, I expect Danny Welbeck to start at least one of the next 2 games, or one of the 2 games in the double. So, there's going to be a chance that one of the games Pascal Gross might be on penalties. But again, if Danny Welbeck starts both, Gross's penalty share is going to be 0. Then you're relying on, let's say, without penalties, who do you think will score more, Hinchelwood or Pascal Gross? I'm going to lean towards Hinchelwood in my eyes. And listen, Hinchelwood is going to be lower owned. How can you differentiate what your wildcard team? you're going to have to pick someone like Midfield, for example, innit? And that's why I'm leaning towards him. You're going to have Cole Palmer. Again, this is what I say. It's not optimal because Manchester City this week. How does the Manchester City-Chelsea game go? I don't think anyone knows. Obviously, Enzo Fernandez suspended for the next 2 games for Chelsea. Cole Palmer at least has penalties in a game like this, because I actually do think Manchester City steamroll Chelsea a bit, because City are looking very, very good, and that's why I've also had Semenyo in my team. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about, let's say, Manchester City's team structure is Pep's kind of just changed it again. In terms of, obviously, before the international break, we were saying how Semenyo was literally playing alongside Erling Haaland, etc. But we saw in the Carabao Cup final against Arsenal, and we obviously saw the last game in the FA Cup against Liverpool, Pep has kind of found a new system in terms of Semenyo one side, Doku on the other. Cherki is now in the team in the number 10 role. Bernardo Silva, Rodri a bit deeper. Nico Riley left back, and obviously Erling Haaland up top. He's finally, by the looks of it, stopped the Marmoush Semenyo together alongside Erling Haaland, which I wasn't really, let's say, looking at thinking that's optimal for that Manchester City style. I kept saying how important I think Cherki is just in terms of creativity. But it does seem that Semenyo is now playing a bit more wider. It's not, let's say, him playing alongside Erling Haaland. But because you got Cherki in there, who's such a top elite creator, I still trust Semenyo, even though he's going to be playing a bit more wider to get enough chances. That's why I still have Semenyo in my team. If people want to maybe go with someone else from Manchester City, Cherki, again, is not a bad option. I think Cherki has kind of, let's say, earned himself a place in the starting 11, but at the same time, I always say this, you never know with Pep sometimes. But I don't mind Cherki in that position if you're going to go there. Bruno Fernandes against Leeds at home. He's the only, let's say, non-doubler in 33 I have. He's the best midfielder to own. Leeds at home, he's the best captaincy option this week, which is why I'm still going to go with Bruno. And then obviously Tavernier, he's frustrating. He's being very, very frustrating. As a Tavernier owner, I'm saying that. But his non-penalty XGI is still there. There's still a chance he's on penalties. Iraola basically said after the last game where Tavernier and Krupi, they decide between themselves who's on penalties. So Tavernier still has, let's say, pen share. And listen, we know Tavernier is probably going to be on the pitch more often than Krupi. So you can argue penalty shares, let's say 60% Tavernier. So it's not a bad option to have. If you guys want to go with Ryan, he's probably, let's say, a bit more, I was going to say a bit more secure in terms of minutes, but Tavernier is still getting very, very good minutes. But let's say a bit more explosive, let's say, when you watch him play, is not a bad option. But that's how the midfield is looking like. Let's have a look at the attack. And then the attack, you're going to have Erling Haaland after his hat-trick against Liverpool, against Chelsea away. I've gone to João Pedro against Manchester City at home. This is what I keep saying. The game week 32 wildcard just does not look optimal. But again, he sets up a very, very, let's say, optimal bench boost in 33. But João Pedro against Manchester City at home. Listen, City are not the strongest defensively, and João Pedro normally does have a very, very good record against the bigger sides. And we know, listen, maybe not under Liam Rosinia, but especially under Enzo Maresca, Chelsea set up for these one-off games very, very well, where Enzo Fernandez, even though he's suspended, normally used to play further forward, Palmer out wide, and then maybe someone like a Gusto or Reece James used to play in midfield alongside Caicedo. Of course, that's not going to be the case with Enzo out, so let's see how Chelsea set up. But João Pedro's been in brilliant form. He's getting more, his goal threat has definitely increased under Liam Rosinia. He's making more runs, let's say, pushing towards the opponent goal rather than coming deep, collecting it and stuff. So that's why I'm still going to go with João Pedro. And then obviously I've gone with Dominic Calvert-Lewin as my third Leeds player. Now, a lot of the debate in the FPL community has also been Calvert-Lewin or Welbeck. Why have I chosen Calvert-Lewin? I want to change over to this. This is obviously Game Week 33, how the team will look like. But we do know there is a chance that Danny Welbeck gets arrested. And to be honest, you could argue the same can be said about Calvert-Lewin in the double game. So who has the better, let's say, fixture delay or time between games? So if we're looking at Danny Welbeck, Welbeck would play for Brighton Saturday 5:30 against Spurs away. Then they play on Tuesday against Chelsea at home. So that's not bad, to be honest. But if you're looking at Calvert-Lewin plays on 3 o'clock on a Saturday against Wolves. And then he plays on a Wednesday 8 o'clock against Bournemouth away. So the delay, or let's say the time between games, is definitely much better for Leeds. Which is why if you're going to have to choose a forward between Welbeck and Calvert-Lewin, me personally, I'm leaning towards Calvert-Lewin over Danny Welbeck. You can argue maybe Welbeck has the better fixture in 32 and you might want to target it like that. But listen, again, is up to you. Now, the reason why I keep saying this team is very, very team dependent is we have to know if you're going to play your wildcard in 32, this is how on paper it should go. You're probably going to slightly lose out in 32 because obviously a lot of people have a better team in 32 than the wildcard teams. 33 is when you're going to make a big gains. 34, you're probably going to make a slight gain on your free hit. 35 is when the free hit 33 lot are going to be playing their wildcard. Because game week 36, it is likely we have a double of Manchester City and Crystal Palace being the teams that double. The reason I say that is very, very important is you have to think about after obviously free hit in 34, you're going to come back to your teams in game week 35. And then you're preparing technically for the double of the Crystal Palace Manchester City game. And as you guys can see in this team, we have 0 Crystal Palace. So if you guys are on 1 free transfer right now, you're going to have 3 free transfers heading into game week 36 to obviously get triple Palace in. This is why I say it's very, very important in terms of a lot of people might want to start with, for example, a Gabriel in defense and then maybe switch to a Senesi maybe next week in game week 33. But make sure you guys keep that fixture into consideration when you're making your moves. Because you don't want to have, let's say, 1 Crystal Palace player for the double. You want to optimize that double in game week 36 as much as you can. Because even though Crystal Palace are going to play Manchester City in the double, Crystal Palace are great for FPL in terms of a lot of the cheaper, let's say, guys. For example, Chris Richards, Lecryle. They have a very, very good floor even in the hard fixtures because they can get DEFCON. So that is something that you guys have to think about heading into the latter parts of the season. But this is how I think I would lean towards in a game week 32 wildcard, game week 33 bench boost strategy. That's how my team would look like. Of course, like I said, there's 1 or 2 changes that you could make. But again, I think this structure is probably what a lot of people will go with. I don't think there's a lot of changes you can make on a game week 32 wildcard. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know down below what you guys think. And let's see what I do with my team tomorrow, because my team selection will be out early morning tomorrow. Tyrone's one will be out today. Let's see what he does. Anyway, make sure you guys like the video, comment your thoughts on my team, subscribe to the channel. Actually, not my team. Comment your thoughts on my wildcard, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back soon.